Okay, cool. So I'm going to talk about functional components and hooks. So yeah, let's get started. What is a functional component? Well, functional components are the status quo of writing modern React applications. They're plain JavaScript functions, and they are called functional stateless. Well, they are also known as presentational, dumb, or stateless. They are called stateless because they were stateless until React released the hooks, introduced it in the version 16.8. Okay, some differences between functional and class-based components. Okay, what's a class-based component? Also known as containers, smart, or stateful components. They are JavaScript classes which means that React create instances of it. So React should initialize the component class in order to call a constructor and initialize the state and everything. Okay. So the differences: syntax. Stateless component requires less lines of code. Okay. So if we have a look to Babel here, I can show you guys the. Here I have this example, so you can see there's this card is built with a class component, and this one is built in with a functional component. They are the same, and if we have a look at the code, the lines of code, less. As you can see here, this one is with the functional component, and this one is class. So if I copy this code, and if I paste it here, we can see that it takes 75 lines to transpile this. Okay, and if I copy the functional component, it takes only 33 lines. So I think it's better to use functional components. Less heavy than class-based. Cool. What else? State. Before the version 16.8, we only could use state in class-based component. That's why functional components were also called stateless. Okay, hooks. Hooks are functions that we can import from React to make our stateless components can have all the features that we can use in before the version 16.8. We could only use in class-based components. Okay, I'm going to talk about a useState hook. UseState is a hook that it's used to be able to add and update and state within our functional components. Okay. When we call the useState, it declares a state variable, and it takes only one argument, which is the initial state. Okay, so here's how it works. When we execute the useState hook, it returns an array, okay, which the first argument is the state, and the second one is a function to update that state. So basically, we can create a const. For this example, I call it count hook. So we use the useState and we initialize to 0. And then that means that the count hook in the position 0, it's the state, and in the position 1, it's the function to update that state. And using the structuring assignment, we have this that all of us were using. Okay. Cool. The UseEffect hook lets you perform side effects in our function components. Data fetching, setting up a subscription, and manually changing the DOM are all examples of side effects. when we're using this hook, tell React your component needs to do something after render. Okay. Placing UseEffect inside the component lets us access the state variable or any props right from the effect. This is an example. Okay. So when we declare the count state variable here, and we tell React that we're going to use an effect, so we pass a function, the effect, to the hook. Inside the if effect, in this case, we actualize the title of the document using the API of the browser document.title. This happens for every render, including the first one. Okay. So UseEffect runs after every render by default and after every update. In some cases, applying the changes after every render can cause problems. So we can solve this telling React to skip applying that effect if certain values haven't changed between re-renders. So to do that, we can pass an array as an optional second argument to UseEffect. This one, okay? I think this is important because if, okay, let's say count is equal 1. So if our component re-renders with count still equals 1, React compare, the previous render and the next render. So if it's equal, React skip the effect. Everyone's happy. Now, if we render with count equals 2, so it compares the previous render, it's different than the next render, and React reapply the effects. Okay. So if you want to run an effect only once, you can pass an empty array as a second argument. Instead, React that your effect doesn't depend on any values, so it never needs to rerun. All right. So I'm gonna do some live coding now with a couple of exercise using both hooks. So yeah, so I'm gonna comment these 2 lines here. All right, I'm gonna start with the use state hook. So what I'm going to do now is I'm gonna do this card. I'm gonna create this card with a title and H2 title with a bottom. So when we click on the bottom, the background color is going to be yellow, and the color of the font is going to be black. Yeah, and it's going to change this. So it's going to say turn off the lights, please. And then when we turn off the lights, it says turn on the lights, please. Okay. So let's get started. I'm gonna create my functional component. React Stateless component. Boom. That's it. So yeah, inside I'm gonna need an H1 tag. Okay. I'm gonna need an H2 tag. I'm gonna need a bottom here. On off. I'm gonna change this later. Here's a use state hook, and here turn on off lights, please. Okay. So I'm gonna create a div here. I'm gonna add an image. Now the source of my image is gonna be my bulb icon. So I'm gonna import it from here. Import bulb from icons bulb.svg. Cool. Second? Sorry? Oh, sorry. Yeah, I misspelled this. Bulb. Okay. I'm gonna need an alt prop here. Light bulb. Cool. Now I'm gonna apply the styles for the container. I already did the styles. The styles are here and in the app.css as well. So I'm just gonna call it main and one for the image, and ID with bulb. Okay. So nope, it's not working because I need to import my user state hook. Okay. Now, what I'm going to do is, in the bottom, I'm gonna create an event, on-click event. Click event. It's gonna trigger a function which I'm gonna call toggle. Yeah, so I have to create my function here. Toggle. Yep. Okay. And I'm gonna import the user state hook. User state. So I'm gonna call this how do I call it here? Active, and set active. User state, and by default I'm gonna put that is false. Okay. And here I'm gonna set the active to the opposite of active. So every time we click on the button, because it's false by default, it's gonna be true. And now I can change this and set condition if active, then display off, if not on, and here as well. Okay, so let's try this. Okay, main hook one. Why is it not applying the CSS? Oh, because I need to import the CSS. Sorry. Import use state hook .css. All right.
Double check the turn rate as well. Yeah, okay.
Oh, yeah. No, it's his work. Turn on the lights. Turn off the lights.
And one to do the opposite.
Yeah, I know. Huh?
But you want to do the opposite, like if it's
Yeah. You're right. Turn on. Turn off. Okay. Now, to change the background color, I'm gonna apply some inline styles. I'm gonna use this style property, and inside, I'm gonna create a constant here. Style. I'm gonna say the background color. Okay, when you're using styles in a CSS file, you can type this like this, color, but because this is not inside a CSS file, so you need to use camel case background color. All right, and then something and color and something as well. So if active, then display yellow. If not, the color that I have by default, which is this one. Okay, it throws an error on background color. Let me see, background, yeah, background color, yeah. And for color, the same. So this changed the font color. It's gonna be black and white. Okay. So now you can see that it's working using state.
I think you were right before.
Turn no off and on. So turn on the lights, please. On. Turn off the lights, please. Off. All right. Cool. So this is the simple exercise using the use state hook. Now I'm gonna do another exercise using the UseEffect. So it's gonna be this one. Okay. More or less it's the same. So React Stateless component. I'm gonna create a h1 tag. It says UseEffect hook. I need an h2 tag. It's gonna say talking to a parrot. Then an input. Then an h2 tag, which is parrot says. Okay, and now I need a div. Inside this div, I'm gonna display my parrot picture, img, and an h3 tag with the text that the parrot is going to repeat. So I'm gonna import my parrot picture. Icons, parrot.svg. Cool. I'm gonna add the image here. So parrot and my alt prop. Okay. What else? Cool. I'm gonna import the styles. Use effect hook.css. Okay, and here in my input, I'm gonna declare a placeholder. It says something, and on change event. Okay, and this event it's gonna it was like that. Yeah. So an event. Then we're gonna set user. Let's say. Okay. Which with the value of event dot target dot value. So because I'm using the set user, I need to use the use state hook, and I'm going to import the UseEffect hook as well. Okay, so now here we're going to have our user and set user use state, and by default the user is going to set nothing, so empty array, and another one for my parrot. Okay, and set parrot. It's going to be the same, use state and empty array. Cool. Set user, yeah. here I'm gonna put the parrot value, parrot, and then now I'm gonna use the UseEffect. Okay, so UseEffect. Oh, thank you. I'm gonna remove this. And now what I want is every time the user types something here, the parrot is going to repeat the same after, let's say, 2 seconds. So I'm going to use the set timeout property function. And yeah, set timeout. And after 2 seconds, I want the set parrot with the value of the user. Okay, so it's going to repeat the same. I'm going to here user. So yeah, every time we type something, after 2 seconds, the parrot is going to say the same. So oh, sorry, I need to import my component. And the styles as well. I need to class name equals main and hook 2. Okay, that wasn't because I need the ID parrot. All right, so if I type React, the parrot is going to say React after 2 seconds. If I type, I don't know, lol, this is lol. Okay, I hate word challenges. What is it? Okay, so yeah, this is 2 little exercise using state, and in this one using use state and use hook, UseEffect hook. Okay, I hope you like this, and well, thank you, I guess.
Should I put the light on?
Any questions for Johnny first?
Q&A.
No questions. Thank you. Okay.
Question, should I put the light on?
You still use the
Huh?
Cool example.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, yeah.
Thank
still
you.
got the window with Babel up? Like the code?
Yes, here.
So you compiled the class-based component to ES 2015, right?
Yes.
Did you do the functional one as well? Is there a comparison there, or is it just showing that you can do it? Did I fall asleep in that bit? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I compared both the class component and the functional
Yeah.
with the same version, like ES.
What are the differences again? Somewhere?
The lines of code, I will show you again. Okay, this one is the functional. So if I paste the functional here, it requires 33 lines to transpile this. The same exercise using class component. It takes 75 lines. That's why the React team recommends to use functional components. I mean, they say that we can still use class components, but probably at some point in the future they're gonna stop the class components.
Nice comparison. I also like the way that you're showing how React code ends up when it goes to the browser.
Yeah.
Obviously the browser doesn't understand React code, it understands
Exactly.
the transpile of JavaScript. So it's a good exercise I think probably for anyone to do if they're curious to see what React turns into when the browser has to run it. Then you can use Babel to transpile it.
Yep. Yeah, Babel.
Yeah, is that just via the Babel website? Is it?
Yeah, if you go to Babel and then here in tryout, so you can compile, transpile Babel.
Babel fish, yeah.
Yeah.
Many languages.
yeah, this was the example for to show the same with a functional component and class component. Cool.
Oh, when you have time.
Yeah.
I think I just had a very deep
Sorry for reading the slides. It was bad, but
No, it's
I didn't have time to memorize everything.
so, mine was so unplanned.
My strong point was doing the live code. So
I'm going to
Why it's coming down there, I'm not quite sure.
submit. Okay, I'm able to send this. I'm trying to send
You're not sending it, it's just logging from the
Yeah.
components. It's still on the front.
No, I know, but I can't get to this back end.
Okay.
And I was looking at the code flicks, and I was
Oh, yeah, yeah.
basically like trying to replicate what had taken place here.
Yeah.
I'll exit code flick. And I just feel like I can't get it.
So what are you running over here? Are you running both of the back end?
So here, this is the front end, and this is the back end.
They're both running here.
That's actually like, something in this where I'm cycling with. Oh yeah, yeah. Because I like asked you how
Yeah.